Hey, it's Connor here with a Chronicler, and I'm doing a mid-year check-in. It's June somehow already. Somehow half the year is basically gone by now. The start of my year was honestly pretty rough. I was on an international flight and kind of got appendicitis, and it was a 15-hour-long flight, and that was literally like the worst-case scenario ever, like a nightmare scenario for me. A week later, my appendicitis really just got way worse, and I had to go to the ER and get that dealt with. So that kind of really clogged up the first month or two of the start of 2025. Things have been a lot better from March onwards, and that kind of did slow down the initial reading I was doing. Yeah, and reading's a little bit slower right now because I went ahead and picked up one of these guys. I was there at midnight at Best Buy picking up a Nintendo Switch 2. Big fan of the Switch. Favorite games for those are Fire Emblem games. So when a Fire Emblem game comes out for the Switch 2, I will be there at launch. Real quick, if you're wondering what I'm playing on there, it's Mario Kart World and then the Bravely Default HD remaster. But now let's get back onto books because that's really what this channel here is focused on. So as far as what I'm reading right now, I got this guy right here, Hyperion. I'm reading this on ebook and doing some of the audiobook, but I did want to kind of show this mass market paperback version of Hyperion that I've had for a long time now. Love the cover art. Pretty sure it's Michael Whelan for that. But I used to live up in Oregon, and I got this copy here at Powell's Bookstore many years ago, and it was kind of around the time that I wanted to get back into reading more. There just seemed to be so many cool books out there. So I bought Hyperion in an attempt to do that, and I think I read like the first chapter, like a bit into the first chapter on that attempt, and I was not connecting with it, and then I put it down, and really, it was a couple years before I really got back into reading more. But I keep this copy of Hyperion kind of as a reminder. It still has that sticker from Powell's Bookstore here on the back, you know, up in Portland, Oregon. I think it's the biggest independent bookstore in America, at least. I don't know about the world anymore, but I absolutely love Powell's. It's a legendary location, and this is kind of the reminder. And now it feels great coming full circle back around to read Hyperion finally. So I do want to give some brief thoughts on the book. I'll do a full video on Hyperion because it's kind of a legendary piece of literature in the science fiction realm, but we have a book club that I run where we meet once a month called Band of the Book, and it's just me and my friends and my sister and my brother-in-law, and none of us really tend to read the same book. We kind of just go give our thoughts about what we're reading at the time. But every now and then we do organize a bigger buddy read, and Hyperion is the biggest buddy read we've had so far. So it's me, my girlfriend, my sister, Luke, Sean. There's at least 5 of us reading the book. 2 of us have finished, and there might be even up to 7 people reading the book altogether. So my buddy's in Europe right now, but when he gets back, we're all gonna hop on a call here, and I'll record a video for the podcast and for the channel, just giving a wide variety of views and spoiler discussion for Hyperion, but I'll also have my own review video for Hyperion, just giving my own personal thoughts. As far as impressions right now, I like the book. The structure of all the stories, if you're not familiar, Hyperion has kind of 6 stories and then one kind of narrative that weaves between them and ties them all together. That is just not my favorite format of book. Short stories just aren't really my favorite thing. And this kind of feels like a bunch of short stories that have a more connective tissue between them and overall some pieces between them that really tie them together. So I like it, but I like books where I can just kind of start reading it and get lost in the flow and just keep blasting through. Where with Hyperion, there's very definitive start and stop points for me with the stories. It's taken me a while to read. The book's more literary than I thought it would be. There's so many poetry references and just things like that I'm not the most well-versed on. There's a lot of references to like John Keats in there. So I have to do a little bit of research, I feel like, to really get the most out of it. I think this will be a book that I appreciate a lot more, probably on a reread, but we will see what my rating is for it right now. I like the book, but I'm not floored by it at the time being. And I'll probably have that wrapped up within like a week here. I'm on the 5th out of 6 stories, so we'll see how it goes at the end there. Outside of Hyperion, I'm also reading Halo Fall of Reach. I love the Halo video games. probably the most important video game series for me in my entire life. Really got me to fall in love with video games in the first place. And I've always heard that the Halo books are pretty good. Way back in the day, I think I owned Halo First Strike, but I didn't really read that much of it. That was kind of back when I was a teenager or a little bit younger, I believe. But I picked up Halo Full of Reach just doing it on audiobook, got it from the library, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit so far. It's been a while since I've read it because I kind of picked up Hyperion into the audio version too, because it's got a really good full cast audiobook. So it's been a minute since I've done that Halo audiobook, but I'm enjoying it. I'm about like 77% of the way through. You can probably also expect a video on that one. Does a lot of fleshing out for some of the characters that you know and love from the early Halo games, and really just sets up Master Chief as a character. Okay, now that we got what I'm reading out of the way, let's go on to what's next. What's next is these two guys right here. Boom, First Law books. So I read The Blade itself last month, and I liked it quite a bit. I gave it a 4.25 out of 5 on my review video. You can check that out in this little marker if you missed that, but I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I feel like by the end, a lot of the characters came together. There was more of a goal going forward in the future books. The first book kind of has the main plot beneath the surface. You can definitely see it there, but Bayaz is kind of leading everybody down this path. And I explained in my review why I actually really liked the way that the plot was handled in the first book, because of how you're kind of seeing it through the characters' eyes, where Bayaz is leading them down this path, and they don't really know necessarily what he's trying to get them to do. But everything kind of works out for Bayaz in the end there, and now he has them on this more definitive goal, trying to accomplish something. So yeah, I feel like with Hyperion, one of the reasons I'm kind of maybe not enjoying it quite so much right now is because we did set it up as the book club book, but I'm viewing it as an obstacle for me getting to these guys, which I'm going to read these way faster than I read Hyperion here, because I just really want to keep cruising through that world. Really like the characters, and I'm kind of a character first reader, I've come to find out. So really looking forward to getting to these. These will probably be the next 2 books that I read. And now, since it's the mid-year check-in, I just want to talk about generally what my plans for reading for the rest of the year are. If you haven't seen it, at the very start of the year, I put out a kind of planning video for what I want to read this year. I've hit some of the things on there, and there's definitely some things I need to get to still, but I like to keep my TBR kind of loose. It is nice having the structure of things that you'll get to, but sometimes you want something kind of exciting. Like after I get through these First Law books, I'm just going to pick up whatever short book, like 100,000 words or less, that I want to, because I just want to read something a little bit shorter after all of that, and something that will kind of be refreshing. Because if you stick to your TBR too much, for me, I just get maybe like, I read too much fantasy. I'm like, all right, I really need a break. I can't hit the next thing on my TBR right away, because I just need to read something completely different for a second. So overall, kind of tying back to what I really want to read for the rest of the year, one of the ones I listed was the Dandelion Dynasty. I at least want to start The Grace of Kings before the end of the year. I've read 10 books so far this year. It'll be right around 12 in a week here, because I'll knock out Hyperion and Halo. I don't read the most books compared to a lot of booktubers, because I have other hobbies like video games that I really want to make sure that I enjoy also. So I'm just not out here crushing books nonstop. So like I mentioned, The Grace of Kings, the Dandelion Dynasty, that was kind of a top priority series for me to start and get to this year. First Law was not on the list, and it kind of just shoved its way right into there. I was feeling some grimdark, and that's why I read The Blade itself. I was like, okay, yeah, let's just crush this series. And then once I have those 3, I'll return to the world of the First Law later. But for this year, I think just those 3 will be what I read from Joe. Then outside of Dandelion Dynasty, there's definitely some other things. I need to read the rest of the Sun Eater books. I want to read all the Sun Eater novellas. So the only novella I have left is Dregs of Empire. And then I also have to read Short Story Collection 2 and 3. Those are pretty short, so it shouldn't take too long, but like I mentioned, short stories aren't really my favorite thing, but for Sun Eater, I want to consume it all. So those I should be able to knock out pretty fast, and I know one of the short stories in Collection 3 is fairly important. I think the Daughter of Swords one. As far as the main books in the Sun Eater series go, I only have to read Disquiet Gods. I've read up through Ashes of Man, and then obviously we have the 7th Sun Eater book, Shadows Upon Time, coming out here. And actually, my girlfriend's mom just called me, and my Broken Binding Sun Eater 1 through 3 just arrived there. We ordered those all the way back in December, and they finally got here to the US, so we're gonna pick those up this weekend. I also am able to access the Broken Binding versions for 4 and 5, so I might pick those up because they're super nice looking. I really try not to buy too many books right now, but those ones are like highest temptation because I just want all the Sun Eater books in those Broken Binding sets. I don't have a Broken Binding subscription, but it's nice for them because if you bought that first set, you're able to continue buying the Sun Eater sets. They give you like a password to access them, so you can definitely get them no matter what. Other authors that were in there in the kind of planning video were Adrian Tchaikovsky. I read one of his books. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. And that was, man, I can't even remember the name of the book right now, but it's here. It was pretty good, nice and short. I just needed something short. I know Children of Time is his really big one that I want to read. I hope I'll get to it this year. But kind of what I'm going to replace that with is I want to read Alastair Reynolds, who's another pretty famous sci-fi author, and I picked up a physical version of House of Suns, so I think that will be one of the big sci-fi books that I read pretty soon here. One other author I mentioned too was Guy Gavriel Kay. Not sure if I can fit Kay in this year. If I do, it'll probably be more towards the end. And I'll probably read Tigana if I read a book from him this year. Outside of that, probably not going to go with too much more planning. One thing I definitely want to do is bring more female authors into my reading mix. I try to look at my stats for reading and really vary the decade and the gender of the author. I just find that it's more refreshing for me. I really like these stats to look at. I have an Excel spreadsheet and I look at it all. Like I was reading Austenard, so that was kind of the 90s era. Then I bounced up to the 2010s with First Law. Then we're bouncing back to like the 80s with Hyperion. I think that's when it was written. So I like bouncing between decades of writing and genders of authors just because it gives the writing itself a lot more variety, which I really appreciate. So yeah, if you have suggestions for some female authors for me to read to add to this mix, definitely let me know. Some of the ones that I was thinking about was like Emily St. John Mandel. I have a lot of her books on my TBR. They're not too long, and I think it's just gonna be something totally different and refreshing for me to read. So I might throw in like Station 11 or Sea of Tranquility, maybe even after the First Law books. So that's definitely up there. I was also thinking about reading some Ursula K. Le Guin, maybe like Left Hand of Darkness. I know a lot of people love Earthsea, but maybe some female sci-fi would be really good for me right now. Kind of been enjoying reading sci-fi more than fantasy at this very moment. Maybe outside of Hyperion. Hyperion's a little bit... I'm liking Hyperion, but very recently I read Ship of Fools, which I absolutely love. As far as books I've read this year, that is probably my second favorite book I've read this year. So definitely let me know in the comments below if there's a female sci-fi author that you'd recommend that I check out, because I'd love to add that to my TBR for this year. And I think that's really about it for this kind of mid-year planning and check-in and update. I don't want to plan out too much, and whatever I say here might very well change by the end of the year, but definitely expect me to have First Law videos out, Hyperion video out, and a Halo Fall of Reach video out here. And I'll definitely be doing content outside of just book reviews. I have a list of ideas on Notion. Notion's this program that I kind of call my external brain. So I have a lot of ideas on there that I definitely want to get around to making sometime soon here. But I'll just leave it at that for now. Thanks for watching this update video. Let me know what you think about what I'm reading right now and what's coming up. And I think that's where we'll call it here for today. So thanks for watching and have a good one.